Good morning, Watershed. I'm so glad that you're here this morning. Would you stand? Let's begin this morning by singing together. When darkness tries to roll over my bones, sorrow comes to steal the joy I own. When brokenness and pain is all I know, I won't be shaken, I won't be shaken. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. Sin no longer has a place to hide. I am not captive to lies. I'm not afraid to leave my past behind. I won't be shaken, I won't be shaken. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. There's power that can break off every chain. There's power that can empty out the grave. There's resurrection power that can save. There's power in your name. Power in your name. There's power that can break off every chain. There's power that can empty out the grave. There's resurrection power that can save. There's power in your name. There's power in your name. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. Sing that again. My fear doesn't stand a chance. Oh, my fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. Standing in your love. Standing in your standing in your
All that I am, all that I have is beautifully made by your hands. There are no questions, there is no doubt, but you look at me and feel proud. You're not embarrassed, you're not ashamed. so well that will never run dry. Your love will not run empty. Your love grows sweeter and sweeter with time. Sweeter and sweeter, sweeter and sweeter, sweeter and sweeter, sweeter and sweeter, sweeter and sweeter time. I am loved by you. I am loved by you. I am loved by you. I am loved by you.
Sing that again.
I am loved by you. I am loved by you.
God, this morning there may be a million reasons why that might not feel true. There are so many places in the world, so many people who are suffering and hurting, who are scared for their life, don't know where they're going to get their next meal. And so sometimes this problem of goodness keeps us from love. God, I pray this morning that we would be able to hold all of the complexities, all of the pain, all of the joy, and everything in between in these moments. And that we can know that in the midst of all of it, in the middle of all of it, is this love. God, that we have access to, that we can give, that we can receive. And God, that it can change us. God, maybe these next moments change us, make us more like love. God, we thank you for the spaces to take deep breaths, the spaces to calm our minds, to listen, to be around others. May we find what we need. God, we love you. We love each other. We pray all this in your name. Amen.
You can be seated. My name is Matt, and I am the lead pastor here. Thank you for being a part of our gathering this morning, for taking time out of your weekend to experience what we do here every Sunday morning. Just a few things that I want to make you aware of. First of all, if you're brand new with us, man, we would love to hear more from you, how you found out about us, or if there's things that you would be interested in connecting to here at Watershed. And so on the screen, there's a QR code that takes you to a link tree where there's a connection card. In fact, it's a little bit of a technical change at Watershed over the last week, where all the QR codes lead to a space where you can access whatever is happening, whether we're announcing it or not. And on this link or through this QR code, there's a connection card. And if you follow that link, it gives you an opportunity to not only opt into our weekly email, but also make us aware of some things that you would be interested in either hearing more about or actually participating in. And I really hope that you would consider doing that. That helps us to get to know you just a little bit better and a little bit quicker, truth be told. Also, if you're new or if you're not new, just want to remind everyone that 2 weeks from today, August 18th, is Pride Sunday in Charlotte and here at Watershed. All right, yeah. If you were walking in, as you were walking in rather this morning, especially if you came in these front double doors, you saw our kindred community selling T-shirts. That's a big day for us here at Watershed. So much so that we are pushing pause on our Sunday morning gathering per se. There will not be a 10 a.m. gathering on that particular Sunday, but at 11 a.m. from 11 to 12 noon, we are going to make we're going to open our doors. We're going to have some food and refreshments. And so maybe sort of like a little tailgating party is going to take place here. So we want to encourage you to come over here first, hang out, get to know a few folks, eat your breakfast, your brunch, whatever that might be. And then if you need some carpooling action headed towards Uptown, then I'm almost certain that we'll be able to figure that out. In fact, Derek, could you load everybody up in your vehicle and take them that? Derek has volunteered. I just put him on the spot, and you're so excited, I can tell. So that's happening on the 18th. And then also a week from Wednesday, the 14th of August, is the next iteration of something called Preface. If I haven't talked with you about this, I will try to, because it is something I absolutely love, not only facilitating, but I think it's something that's really helpful for folks who are trying to understand what the heck is this place? Like how does my spiritual or my communal background start to integrate and dovetail into who Watershed is becoming? Because Watershed for the last 18, 19 years has always been in this evolutionary process. And so you not only experiencing some of the things or some of the ideas that got us to where we are, but then also informing us about how you're showing up. It's a really dynamic, mutually beneficial experience. It's very dialogue driven. There's no like 3-ring binders or covenants to sign at the end. So I hope I didn't trigger anybody with that last statement. But we wanted, it is, right now we got about 15 or 16 folks signed up. And there's still a few more seats, and you can follow the QR code and sign up for that as well. And then also, you might have noticed that there's something going on in the back with some tables and some boxes and such. And that is through a partnership, an allyship with a place called Youth Villages. And Evelyn, why don't you come on up? This is my friend Evelyn. Give her a nice round of applause. Evelyn is here, and I was going to talk all about this, and we were in a team huddle earlier, and Evelyn just like brought the house down. I said, why don't you just talk about it? You understand this way better than I do. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Youth Villages, why you're here, and what's going on?
Hi, everyone. I'm so grateful to be with this beautiful community this morning. So I work at a nonprofit called Youth Villages, and we provide mental health services to youth in our community. We're a national organization, but we have 10 different offices in North Carolina. And 2 of our programs, one is called Intercept, and it is just what it sounds like. We intercept families that need help, and we provide them with mental health services. And then our other program is called LifeSet, where we provide comprehensive support to youth who are aging out of foster care. So what we have in the back is a bunch of school supplies. This year we're aiming to provide 440 backpacks to the youth that we serve. And this not only is allowing the kids to get ready for school, which of course it is, but it's also allowing them to really focus on their mental health and their healing journeys. So your help is going to be really crucial, and it will take us so close to our goal. So I'm just really grateful to be with you all today. And if you are looking for other ways to support, we do have a few final items on our Amazon registry. For some reason, binders are kind of, there's a force field around binders. No one wants to buy binders. And then if you want to make a monetary donation, that will help us support the individual needs of the youth, like uniforms. So thank you.
So Evelyn, just to be clear, following this morning, there is a bunch of backpacks that have to be systemically put together, and we're going to need people to do that.
Exactly. We have an assembly line system, and we'll just go down the line. We have little post-its with the quantities of each item that go in the backpack, and then you'll just go down the line.
Oh man, that is super organized. That's way more organized than we're used to around here. Thank you for being here this morning. Evelyn will be in the back if you have other questions. Again, you can continue to donate supplies, and there's also financial gifts that you can donate towards as well. Thank you for being here. Give Evelyn a big round of applause this morning. Thanks for being here. That's kind of a great segue into this last thing that I want to just take a moment talking about. We're heading into, obviously, the fall will be here before we know it. We're kind of in that liminal month, right, between summer and September. And just to kind of revisit how we started the year here at Watershed, as we moved into 2024, there was quite a bit of a deficit that we were trying to recover from 2021, 22, and 23. And so part of the vision was, hey, if we can take on every month $600 of new recurring giving, then by the time the year ends, we will not only be where we need to be to meet our monthly budgetary needs, but we will literally recoup some lost ground and then be in a really great spot going into 2025. And so I wanted to just take a moment and mention that in the first 6 months of this year, there were 20 new households / families that started giving either for the first time or they raised their recurring giving here at Watershed to the tune of well over $4,000. I think it was like $4,280 a month has started coming into Watershed since January 1. That is staggering. 20 families at $4,200. That's the good news. The sobering news a little bit is that there's been a little bit of a recession in terms of recurring giving. So a little around $3,000 has kind of parted ways with us. We have 5 months left, and you kind of see what happened when we got past April. So March was really strong. I didn't have a screen big enough to do January and February, but we reached our goal in January, February of 600. March was 540, and you could see that as May, June, and July started to creep in, sort of this summer attrition took place. And now we're in August, and this is the first weekend of the month. And so when you give, that puts us in a place to be able to animate the mission of this community, loving as though a different world is possible today. It makes it possible for us to partner with places like youth villages or the All Good Collective or Launchpad or Thunklao Hoikip in India or Sacred Souls, which is a community of faith just around the corner in University City, not to mention what happens down this hallway as we're giving kids a completely different experience than many of us grew up with, an experience free of some of the trappings that we're exiting from in our own spiritual lives. It gives us the opportunity to hold space in the city in a very unique way. People keep telling me Watershed is a unicorn. It's so different than so much of what I've experienced in other churches because of how much grace and kindness and forgiveness and openness exists here. And so just by being here this morning, you're helping animate that. So I want to say thank you for that. But as you move into the fall, would you consider doing more? Would you consider beginning if you haven't done so yet? And let us together come together and awaken, struggle, and love as though a different world is possible today. Thank you for being here. This is the part of our morning, if you're new with us, where we take a moment and we just say hello to one another. And so I want to invite you to stand and just find someone to say good morning to. And thanks for being here at Watershed.
right, usually we have you sit down, but I want to have you stay standing for this next song. You might know it. If you have a lighter, just get ready, okay? Lying in my bed, I hear the clock tick, and I think of you, caught up in circles. Confusion is nothing new. Flashback, war nights, almost left behind. Suitcase of memories. Time after sometimes you picture me walking too far ahead. You were calling to me. I can hear what you have said. You say, go slow, I fall behind. Second hand advice. If you're lost, you can look and you will find me. Time after time, before I will catch you, be waiting. Time after time.
After my picture fades, darkness has turned to gray. Watching through windows, you're wondering if I'm okay. Secrets stolen from deep inside. The drum beats out of time.
If you're lost, you can look and you will find me. Time after time. Before I will catch you, I'll be waiting. Time after time. You say, go slow, I fall behind. Second hand advice. If you're lost, you can look and you will find me. Time after time. Before I will catch you, I'll be waiting. Time after time. If you're lost, you can look and you will find me. Time after time. Before I will catch you, I will be waiting. Time after time. Time after time. Time after time. Time after time.
Good morning, Watershed. Good morning. My name is Kim Honeycutt, and I am part of the, thank you so much, I'm part of the teaching team here. My real job, my day job, is I'm a psychotherapist, which is why they asked me to be part of the teaching team. I love to talk about the inner, and to hang out with them. Anyway, they should be paying me a copay, come to think of this, actually, but never mind. So I love being part of the teaching team. I'm really a psychotherapist. I love talking about the intersection of psychology and theology. It's what I get to do with you today. And that, the teaching team, we get together and we decide different series. So today is to kick off a brand new series called Outcome. And I need you to know that was my idea. It was. And you'll hopefully know by the end of this why that is so valuable and I think something we need to talk about. But the tagline, making meaning amidst the unexpected happening, that's the brilliant David Roberts. And I love the tagline. I think it makes so much sense. It's not about already knowing or we already found the meaning. It's about making the meaning. So the subtitle of this talk today is Broken Promises Land. You remember the movie Sixth Sense? Remember that? And the whole thing about I see dead people, right? I'm such a nerd. I remember seeing the movie and leaving and going, I see patterns. I see connections. I have this gift that I can see like certain behavior and connect it to childhood conditioning. I can do all this. And so it makes me a decent therapist, but what happens is, here's the problem, and I'm not the only person who has this gift, is that when Larissa and I are watching TV, I have this need to predict everything that's going to happen. And I need to say it out loud. I need to say this person's going to knock over this object. They're going to say this. This is foreshadowing into this. This is what that means. And I need to say it out loud. And Larissa does the same thing every time. She hits pause because I'm not allowed to hold the remote control. I don't know what that's about. But she hits pause. She looks at me. I say my brilliance. She says, you're really smart, honey. She rolls her eyes lovingly, and she hits play. Okay, so it makes me a horrible TV companion. It does, but it makes me an okay therapist. And, if you're here, my guess is you are currently in therapy. You've been in therapy, or somebody right now is rooting for you to go to therapy, right? And so you know what happens when you come in, people like me, for your initial evaluation, after we talk about the boring HIPAA stuff, right? What do we say? What's always the first question? We don't start right there, but that's true. We need to know about your parents. That is relevant. Why are you here exactly? What do you want to talk about? What brought you here? What was the event that brought you here? Right? We always say the same thing. But here's something I occasionally say in their initial evaluation. I don't always say it, but I occasionally ask them, how do we know when we're done? And let me tell you why I don't always ask that. Because many people come in, they're already locked into a pattern. They're already in a holding pattern because they're fixated on a certain outcome, and they're not paying attention to who they are or what's happening in their process. And so if I bring up the outcome, I am mimicking the pattern that they are already in. And if they do this, I have a certain diagnosis for them. And this is a diagnosis that you'll never find in the DSM, which is the Psychological Bible, is what we call it. And it's something I made up. And it's called chronic disappointment. And it's the most common diagnosis, pervasive diagnosis that I see in all of us. And my way of explaining this to people is I talk about Moses. And listen, whether you are a Christian believer, believe in something different, non-believer, people have all heard this story of Moses and 2 million people walking around in a 2-mile radius for 40 years. We all know this story. And I don't know if it really happened or not. I know as a therapist, it is rich. It has got some good stuff inside of that. And symbolically, so many of us walk around the promised land and we never make sense or understand what's happening to us when we're in the process. We don't have enough awareness to know that we're even in a pattern. So I have a video to prove my point. So we're going to show a video. And listen, before we start it, let me say this. We're going to do mathing. We're mathing. We're going to do math. We don't do math in my household, so that's what I'm telling you. that there is a certain mathematical answer. There is an answer. We're mathing. Okay. Show the video, please.
This is an awareness test. How many passes does the team in white make? The answer is 13. But did you see the moonwalking bear?
So we make the outcome an idol. We become so hyper fixated on what we think the outcome is supposed to be, is that we miss so much what happens to us and who we are in the process. But please hear me, the outcome matters. If you're dating somebody and you are looking for a committed relationship or possibly marriage, like the outcome, that relationship matters. If you are in a medical situation, you're waiting for a certain diagnosis so you can have the right treatment plan. The outcome matters. This November, the election, the outcome absolutely matters. But there's something that we can do about learning to be in the process, to have awareness in the process, and we don't have to necessarily know what's going to happen, but if we know how to have awareness and pay attention and get centered in the process, we can know who we are and what it is about ourselves that will get us through whatever the circumstances are. So there's different names for what the centering awareness process can be called. There's a man named Dr. Dan Allender. He's a brilliant therapist. He wrote the book, The Healing of the Wounded Heart. It's a good book. I have not read it, but I know the concepts. And I think they're good stuff. Y'all can read it. Tell me if I just keep saying this is a good book. But I think it's a good book. But his whole thing is about how do you go from a wounded heart to being wholehearted? How do you get in the process and go from a wounded heart to actually having what he calls as a coherent narrative? It means you're learning how to make sense of the stories inside of you and the stories around you. In interpersonal neurobiology, we call the same thing integration. And biblically, what I think this centering process of knowing who we are is called shalom. Shalom means peace. It means harmony. It means delight. There's a theologian named Cornelius Plantinus, and he calls shalom the way things ought to be, us finding a way to make meaning of crazy, horrible things that happen and make it to get to a way that it can be the way this ought to be. So I want to go to John 14:27. And this is Jesus. My peace is the legacy I leave to you. I don't give gifts like those of this world. Do not let your heart be troubled or fearful. I love this idea that this is what Jesus is saying, like out of all things, the legacy I'm going to leave to you is peace. And that our hearts get troubled, they get wounded. And so much of the fear that we have that we're going to focus on today is our fear of disappointment, our fear of disappointing someone else or being a disappointment. And that we get so lost inside of this that we have this wounded heart and we don't even know what it means to have a coherent narrative. That we get so fragmented that we don't know because we're so into trying so hard to not be a disappointment to someone, is that we don't know what it's like to be integrated. And such a piece of this, it keeps us from shalom, has to do with us believing that we just have to settle for fitting in instead of knowing that we already belong. Most of you probably have heard of Dr. Brene Brown. She's a social researcher and a shame expert. And so she has, I'm going to paraphrase a quote of hers. And that is, if you want to go into this world and seek confirmation that you don't belong, you will absolutely find it. And I got a quote from her of her research of what the difference is, and this is vital if we want to understand if we're locked in a pattern of what it means to fit in and what it means to belong. This is from Brene Brown. One of the biggest surprises in this research was learning that fitting in and belonging are not the same thing. In fact, fitting in is one of the greatest barriers to belonging. Fitting in is about assessing a situation, becoming who you need to be in order to be accepted. Belonging, on the other hand, doesn't require us to change who we are. It requires us to be who we are. And so for us to know the difference of this, I want to explain there's 4 different paths, there's 4 different segments of relationships. And what would it be like? What does it mean to have shalom, to have peace and harmony, delight in all 4 areas? And these are the relationships. For us to work on having shalom between you and you and others, you and the earth, and you and your Creator. So a lot of us will really build 1 or 2 of these, but we don't build all 4. And there's an incredible imbalance that happens. I'm sure you've all had to go and talk to somebody, and you just want a peaceful conversation, but you know there's going to be conflict because the only area they have built relationship with God. So you know when you've got to go say something to that person that what's going to be said back to you will be scripture. It will only be what their pastor told them to say. And then there's no connection. There's nothing harmonious in your conversation. There's other people who have just been taught to build relationship for others. And you know when you talk to them, you ask them something about themselves, they're going to deflect. They don't know it's okay to have peace within themselves. And so they automatically make it about you. You can't get to know them. And there's other of us who just learn out of survival to take care of ourselves. And so anything that you may want to talk about yourself, we're going to make it about us. Because it's all imbalanced. And there's not peace in those parts of our relationships. And because of this, we get so hyper-fixated on certain outcomes. And it causes us to have so much fear of disappointing someone else or being a disappointment that we walk in a 2-mile radius in our relationships, metaphorically, trying so hard to not be overwhelmed with our pain by just trying to appease other people. Disappointment literally means missed appointment. What that means is a missed appointment of connection. So I want to explain this. I think this is really important because so many of us are being controlled by unrecognized fear of disappointment. And we're unknowingly participating in strategies that cause us to think that we're getting closer to the promised land, and all we're doing is getting closer to the false promise of belonging. And we get centered with broken promises. So I have a chart. I made a chart, so we're going to talk about this. I'll say ooh and ah about this chart. Thank you. Thank you. Oh my gosh. What's wrong with you people? Well, Larissa really did it. I just came up with the concept. So ooh and ah her. Does that make it a little stronger? Does that make it happier? There we go. There you go, baby. There you go. Again, these are strategies that we are taught we get into because we get so trapped and we think keeping the peace is by appeasing someone else, making sure they are okay. And it doesn't allow us to be balanced in our relationships. And the first one I want to talk about is other referenced responses. So you know that people either are self-response or their other response, an other reference. So if you're other reference, you are very much in someone else's story. You're very much thinking about what they're thinking about or what's going on with them, and very rarely kind of understand what you are experiencing. And so what you get called today is an empath. Y'all, that's cute. It really is a trauma response, just to let you know that's what empath means. But so many of us growing up, honestly, like your day in the mood and in the household, what mattered was that you had to pay attention to someone else's tone, facial expression, a door closing, what someone else was experiencing for your survival, that you became hyper-focused on what someone else was doing or saying. What that happens is it becomes completely about what someone else thinks of you, and you don't know what you think of you, of your experience. This is a trauma response called fawning, which means for my safety, I'm going to make sure you're okay. And that causes us to get incredibly stuck in whatever pattern or cycle that we're in. The second one is called repetition compulsion. Now, this is a term coined by Freud, so I roll on him. I do not like that man, but I like the term. They call it now trauma enactment, but I like the idea of repetition compulsion. So you've all heard somewhere that you grow up and you're going to marry your dad. It's not true, all right? So let me explain a little bit more. That whoever wounded you the most as a child, whatever is incomplete in you, it could be a sibling, it could be a coach, something else, that we subconsciously will grow up. And we will recreate that. It could be with a boss, a partner, it could be with a church, it could be with a medical community, because we want a different ending. We want it to happen differently how it's happening, but without that awareness, we go into a repetition compulsion. And inside of that, we really go into if only they. And this is where we lose our power. It becomes if only the person who has never hugged me hugs me, then I'm okay. If only I can get this person to accept me and tell me I'm good enough, then I'm okay. And this is something I struggle with incredibly. And what helps me is knowing this is dualistic thinking. The very thing I'm upset with the other person for doing is what I'm doing because I'm waiting for them to think and see things the way I do. And I'm just recreating my lack of being able to feel accepted in other areas. And so just having some understanding that this causes us to live in an old story, and there's no new meaning that can be constructed when we're in repetition, compulsion, and we're waiting for someone else to tell us that we can keep moving. The third one is called the first draft. I'm sure you all have heard 1,000 times that you are your thoughts. That is not true. That you've heard, I think, therefore I am. I need you to know that's really not true. That is false information. And that most of us have 3 or 4 clusters of thoughts that we just circulate throughout the day that really aren't our thoughts. But they have been implanted, they're there for some reason, and they simply keep you protected. It keeps you from going anywhere else besides what you already know. When I'm in therapy with somebody, and the minute we get a little bit closer to something that identifies what they're dealing with, it's very easy for people to say, yep, well, hang on, other people had it worse than I did. And it stops. And they don't go anywhere else if they stay right there with that thought. And it's just a very protective thought. Or they'll say, like we were talking about taking a risk and getting out of the pattern they're in a relationship, they'll say, well, what if the other shoe drops? Just know that the first draft, what you start thinking about, is just part of whatever pattern you're in. That if we stop there, it just means we're comfortable. And if we're comfortable, there's no challenge. And if we can get out of whatever cycle we're in, we have to know it's okay to be challenged. The fourth one is silent waiting and wanting. This is really where we get into we just fit in and we don't belong. That it becomes about just appeasing other people, believing that if I just keep doing for them and keep taking care of them, then sooner or later they will see that I have needs too. They'll see what's really going on with me, but we don't know how to voice it. And people who get very locked inside of this are just waiting for someone else to notice that they also have needs. And they don't even know half the time that they're just trying to appease somebody. And they believe that they can handle disappointment, but the other person, whether it's a spouse or a boss or a pastor, whomever, can't handle it, so they have to take all of it on themselves. This will not allow you to get out of your cycle. The last one I want to go over real quick is criticism. You know, Larissa and I have these dead plants on our front porch. We like them. We don't care that they're dead for some reason. But when you Enneagram 1s come to our house, y'all have some need to point out that we have dead plants on our front porch every time. Let me tell you what that means. That I have learned by working with a lot of people that people who have a lot of disappointment will criticize themselves and they'll criticize other people, trying so hard to control the disappointment so no more disappointment comes in. They really think if they're hard on themselves that they won't get disappointed again and they won't disappoint someone else. And they truly think they're helpful when they criticize something else because they think they're yielding somebody from experiencing more disappointment. And all it does is cause disconnection in relationships, but that's not the intent. See, we swim in disappointment. And so many of us just have the disappointment that we know and that we're comfortable with, and so we do a whole lot of things to make sure all these strategies I just talked about and more to make sure that nothing else comes in. We just want the disappointment that we already have. And I've learned that when we are able to have community and have capacity, really when we face the fact that we are disappointed and that we're disappointed in someone else, that what happens next is we really learn it's okay to deal with the fact that we are very disappointed in somebody else or something else that's happened to us. When I was dealing with my mom and how she raised me and all the pain and things that happened, and all the things in the cycle that I did, trying so hard to appease her, trying so hard to, I thought that would mean it would be peaceful and everything would be okay if I just kept pleasing her and using all these strategies. And then at some point that I realized, yes, I am a disappointment to her. In her eyes, I'm absolutely disappointment. And once I reconcile that and disempower that, I realized I was actually disappointed in her as my mom. And that was the thing I thought I couldn't handle. But facing that allowed me to have more shalom with me, and then it changed my relationship with her. I want to go to John 20:19. On that same evening, which was Resurrection Sunday, the followers gathered together behind locked doors in fear that some of the Jewish leaders in Jerusalem were still searching for them. Out of nowhere, Jesus appeared in the center of the room, and Jesus said to them, "May each of you be at peace." You know, I love this scripture, this idea of people who are in this room and they're hiding and their hearts are troubled and they don't know what to do next. And out of nowhere, Jesus comes in the center and says, "Be at peace." He wants peace for each of us. That is the legacy being left, that we are allowed to have peace, harmony, and delight, and to make meaning no matter what is happening around us or even within us. There's something powerful about us working to not please each other and instead just know how to be with each other. That is a center that we don't have to hyperfixate on what the outcome may or may not be. So I've got a few questions for you. I want to throw out to you that give you an idea of where are you in this path, whether you're locked in a pattern about a fear of disappointment, whether your heart is wounded, or is there some way that you can have some movement and get out of these strategies to learn more what it's like to be peaceful with yourself and others. The first question I want to put out there is, do I need to focus more on strengthening relationship with self, others, earth, or God? Where does it feel imbalanced? Where have you not had permission to spend time and focus on because you've been so busy trying to keep the peace, what you believe to be the peace with other people? This is your starting place. Second question, am I open to making meaning of the process? It's just a decision that maybe we don't have to know the outcome. Maybe we don't have to be hyper-fixated on it to know exactly what's going to happen. Instead, can I learn who I am in the process and what it is about me that will get me through the process? It's making meaning amidst the unexpected. Third question to sit with. Am I waiting for something from others that's actually for me to give myself? Am I waiting for someone else to tell me that I'm good enough? Am I expecting you to do the work for me and tell me that I'm acceptable? Is that really more for me to do for myself? It's a huge barrier to being peaceful. My final question for you is, how do I leave a legacy of peace? And to know based on where you are and based on where you are when it comes to you and others, you and the earth, and you and your creator, having an idea of what peace looks like. For some of us, what peace looks like is having a voice. And for others, it's being a little bit more quiet and asking questions. For some people, having peace is flipping the table. And other people, where you are, peace for you, shalom for you, would be setting the table and inviting people For some of us, it's being at the table we know, where people tell us that we barely fit in, and us staying at the table knowing that God says that we belong. That you get to decide what peace looks like and what it is for you. It doesn't have to look the way we've always been told. But it cannot, it will not look like you trying to appease and make sure someone else is okay instead of knowing who you are, where you are, and how to make meaning of what's happened to you amidst all the uncertainty. So what I want to do today is declare peace. In whatever area you need to do that. And when I read Dr. Brene Brown's Wholehearted Manifesto, and this is a way I want you to get in whatever receiving posture that you need, just to hear this, whether this is about parenting yourself, reparenting yourself, a commitment we make to being with each other as we are amidst so much right now we don't know the outcome to. But just to sit with this and to receive this, wherever this needs to be for you, whatever this means to you. Above all else, I want you to know that you are loved and lovable. You will learn this from my words and actions. The lessons on love are in how I treat you and how I treat myself. I want you to engage with the world from a place of worthiness. You will learn that you are worthy of love, belonging, and joy. Every time you see me practice self-compassion and embrace my own imperfections. We will practice courage in our family by showing up, letting ourselves be seen and honoring vulnerability. We will share our stories of struggle and strength. There will always be room in our home for both. We will teach you compassion by practicing compassion with ourselves first, then with each other. We will set and respect boundaries. We will honor hard work, hope, and perseverance. Rest and play will be family values as well as family practices. You will learn accountability and respect by watching me make mistakes and make amends, and by watching how I ask for what I need and talk about how I feel. I want you to know joy, so together we will practice gratitude. I want you to feel joy, so together we will learn to be vulnerable. When uncertainty and scarcity visit, you'll be able to draw from the spirit that is part of your everyday life. Together we will cry and face fear and grief. I will want to take away your pain, but instead I will sit with you and teach you how to feel it. We will laugh and sing and dance and create. We will always have permission to be ourselves with each other. No matter what, you will always belong here. As you begin your wholehearted journey, the greatest gift that I can give you is to live and live with my whole heart, to dare greatly. I will not teach or love or show you anything perfectly, but I will let you see me, and I will always hold sacred the gift of seeing you, truly, deeply seeing you. May this declaration be how we all walk out of the broken promises, the chronic disappointments, and we'll step into a coherent narrative, and we'll be able to make new meaning. Shalom.
Would you stand and let's close by singing together? You made me new. You are making me new. You made me new. You are making me new. out of the dust. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of us. Life is springing up from this old ground, and out of chaos, life is being found in you. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of the dust. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of us. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of the dust. Oh, you make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of us. You make me new. You are making me new. You make me new. You are making me new. You make me new. You are making me new. You make me new. You are making me new. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of the dust. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of us. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of
We are still being made. We're still being brought to life. We're still being born again. May our eyes be open. May our hearts be open. May our ears be open, not just to the voice of love and kindness and joy and transformation, but to one another. God, may what we do here in this space, may it flow in us, may it change us, and may it flow through us out into the world. We love you. Amen. Hey, thanks for being here this morning. Will you give Kim another round of applause? I don't know if she's still here. Is she back there? I don't know. A couple of quick things. Don't forget, there's an opportunity to help out in the back with the backpacks. And then also, it is the first Sunday of the month, which that means we now get to engage in the ritual of the chair stacking here at Watershed. So if you don't mind helping us by stacking chairs and pushing them to the side for our cleaning crew to come in. Thank you for being here. Don't rush off because we ended a little early today. Take some time and continue to get to know one another. Have a great day.